Well, it's an absolute pleasure and honor for me to sit here with none other than Dr. Frederick Kit Adams. I'm Andre Bogarty, 212 Psi Iota, life member number 9583. And I get to interview Dr. Adams, Brother Dr. Adams. Brother Dr. Adams, would you introduce yourself to the
All right,
Brotherhood?
I am Dr. Frederick Kid Adams Jr., 6 Kappa Psi, 67. I did my undergraduate at Morgan, where I began pledging. And back in those days, we pledged 2 semesters, and you had to maintain your
Wow.
average 2 semesters. And
Wow.
I'm pre-med major, taking biochemistry, physics. So I didn't have the average going into the second semester, so I pledged at Pi. And so that summer, Pi chapter decided to send me and 6 other of my line brothers up to Epsilon in New York City, pledged through the summer,
Wow.
which we did. And we pledged all summer, and then it was time for Hell Week. And the district representative, Dr. E. Worthington Waters, who was Dean of Students at Maryland State, would not sign our paperwork. You're
Wow.
supposed to you're supposed to go over where you started pledging. Anyway,
Mhm.
so I had to maintain my grade point average to get into medical school. And I did what I had to do, and then I went and graduated from Morgan in '64.
Okay.
And from that, I went on into the Army, and after we got out of the Army, I went to grad school at Howard and went over to Kappa Psi, which is the intermediate chapter at Howard.
Okay. So
Um,
what? So Dr. Adams, could you tell what kind of doctor are you? What's your
I am a
practice?
doctor of veterinary medicine. Um, my father and all 4 of my uncles are all medical doctors, and I realized in the war that I had trouble dealing with human death. And
Mm-hmm.
my tent mate was a black veterinarian out of Tuskegee, Jim Ferguson. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he was Airborne Ranger Special Forces, believe it or not, and he encouraged me greatly to go to Tuskegee. And so I put in my paperwork and was approved.
Wow, that's
Uh,
awesome.
Colonel Ferguson became the dean of Tuskegee's veterinary school. He was full bird colonel, and unfortunately, he died of cancer due to Agent Orange from Nam.
Wow.
He was a hell of
Wow.
a guy, I'll tell you.
So, well, I can only imagine, and if I must say so myself, and we joke a lot, but I feel the same way about you. And it's always whether it's a quick phone call or sometime in your presence, I think you're a hell of a guy and a
Oh,
hell of a brother.
I'm
So,
going to
with that said,
cry. Anyway, Kisa.
and not only that, extremely hilarious. There's not a moment you're around Brother Adams and you're not going to laugh. If you don't laugh when you're around him, you need to check your pulse. So with that said, what does the brotherhood mean to you?
Oh my God.
I know that's a tough question.
I
That's a day. That's a day question.
you really,
That question can be.
I mean,
Yeah.
the guys I pledged with, my line brothers. I mean,
Right.
we still to this day talk every week, and these are guys now remember. Well, no, you wouldn't remember. I started pledging in 1961.
Mm-hmm.
So I've known these guys over 50 years. And fortunately, most of them are still living. I've only
Mm-hmm.
lost one line brother, uh, Brother Ronnie Powell. Uh, he died of sarcoid. But I guess what's really interesting is that fact that my father and all of my uncles are alphas.
Wow.
And when I went to Morgan, the alphas were wearing white socks. And so consequently, I wasn't going that way. Uh, what was really interesting is that I lived in an area just off the campus of Morgan. And one block away was none other than Bishop Edgar A. Love.
Wow.
His son was one of my best friends. We used to play football in the lot, and because we lived right there at Morgan, we would go over and play football. Uh, Actually, on the football field, bunch of neighborhood guys. Um, if you've got any Morgan history, uh, I lived next door to Brother Talmadge Hill and Talmadge Hill Jr., both of them good Omega men. Coach Hill was um, or is in Morgan's Hall of Fame. He died, several years ago. Uh, but to be able to walk up the street and see John and meet and talk to Bishop Love, uh, and he was such a kind, gentle giant. He was a
Mm-hmm.
small man. He was about your size, Bogey, but he
Uh-huh.
was so gentle and he he had this lovely wife. Uh, and then when I started pledging, I used to have to take my little signature book. You know, you had to get your signatures from the big brothers.
Uh-huh.
So I would go up to Bishop Love's house and get his signatures. I have searched all over this house trying to find that signature book. I I don't have it. I can't find my Lampardo's hat either. But as much as I have traveled around the world, it's not unusual that I would lose stuff as disorganized as I am. Um, but getting back to your original question, what do I think of Omega? I
What
love
does
Omega.
the brotherhood? Mm-hmm.
I,
The Omega. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Here I am at 78, still walking around with purple and gold, going to the store with a Q hat on.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
well, that's interesting.
feel
That's interesting because you kind of already jumped into being who you are. You already kind of jumped into the second question, and when because the second question is what was your fondest memory of being in Omega? But for you, you've already kind of shared some of that, given the history with one of our founders and his son, and some of the other stalwart brothers who've gone on to Omega chapter. But if you could pick one more kind of moment of one of your fondest memories outside of meeting
yeah,
me,
man,
you could pick one more of your
I need
fondest
to ask Brother
memories.
Moore for a
Uh,
shovel because I need a shovel.
if you could pick one of your fondest
what
memories, if
one of
you can
my
give me like a 30-second.
one of my fondest memories is being in the Omega Circle at Morgan State University. Um, Homecoming,
Uh-huh.
love it. Uh, I'm one of the few people that came back from a combat zone to make Morgan's homecoming. I, I was able to finagle a courier flight. I was an officer courier,
Mm-hmm.
naturally going through college ROTC. Back in those days, if you didn't stay in ROTC, you sure enough were going to get drafted. This was Vietnam days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I I was not about to be a prophet, nothing.
Right, right.
You know, I wasn't bopping anybody's floor. I was going to tell them to mop the floor themselves. Anyway, but my fondest memory was being in the circle with Morgan at homecoming. And then when I went down to Tuskegee, uh, down at Lambda Epsilon, when I was down there in veterinary school, who should I meet first person? Brother Tom Joyner and his brother Albert, who is now in Omega chapter, unfortunately. Um, I have a lot of fond memories down there at Tuskegee, but Tuskegee's veterinary school was a something. Uh, one of the hardest courses in veterinary school was parasitology because animals are so prone to parasites. And there was this one parasite. It's a thorny head worm that's found in the cecum of swine.
Hmm.
The name of that worm is Macacantharenthus rutinaceus. Now spell that shit on a test. Oh my God. I thought I'd go crazy. And the thing about it was after coming out of the war, I was used to staying up all night. You know, you
Right.
really didn't sleep too much when you were in the war.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and so I could go out and party, get back at the house at 12 and stay up all night and study. Watch the sun come up, get a couple hours sleep and make an 8 o'clock class. And
Right.
they couldn't understand, well, how's this Negro being able to hang out and party
Uh-huh.
like a fool and still get his books?
Right, right, right.
Oh, I had some good times down in Tuskegee, though. Prior to the Swift
That's a,
going south, Lambda
that's
Epsilon chapter.
that's amazing. So you're an accomplished man. Uh, very very serious about your craft to the degree that in your being a senior statesman and senior elder man in Omega and even in life, you still work. You
Yep.
still go. You still
Yeah,
work.
I
So I don't know what's that drive, but I'm going to ask this question, and I don't know if it will correlate to your answer. But how has Omega transformed you into the man and to the person you are today? And
well,
how? Well, I
you
guess
know, as opposed to now, they used to lay the wood on us. Oh, did they lay the wood on us? Grab your jewels, manhood, scholarship, perseverance, uplift. Yes, big brother.
we're time bar from that. We're time bar from that. So you
Yeah,
can't
well,
press.
well,
You
wait a
can't
second.
go.
Let me. You asked me a question. Let me tell you.
I.
The one thing about pledging back in those days was that you grew so close to your line brothers.
Hmm.
And then you came to the realization they may whip my ass, but they can't kill me. So I'm going to persevere and I'm going to get on through this shit. Oops. Anyway, it gave me the ability to persevere.
Yeah.
I went through so much. When I started out in college, I started out as a chemistry major.
Hmm.
And in chemistry, you have to take this course, differential equations. We called it DiffEq. And there was a Russian teaching DiffEq at Morgan who you can barely understand.
Hmm.
So I took DiffEq 3 times. I dropped it 3 times, changed my major to biology, and became a doctor. But you got to keep on pushing,
Yeah.
no matter what. And I was in private practice for about 28 years, and I developed a palsy in my right hand. I can no longer do surgery.
Mhm.
And so I sat around for a year, retired. They said, well, Dr. Adams, we think you need to retire medically.
Mhm.
So I ended up in the VA hospital. I had to have surgery on my neck and uh, cervical surgery. And I stayed at the VA hospital for about 6 months because I had lost the use of my left arm from the surgery. And they had to physical therapy, physical torture, what it was.
Right, right.
And talking to one of the gentlemen at the VA, I said, hell, I might as well, I don't want to just sit around anymore.
Right.
So I decided to come in and apply to the Department of Agriculture. Uh, and I came in there as a veterinarian.
Mhm.
At every meat and poultry plant in America, you have veterinarians. Uh, and we are responsible for America's health. We can recognize
Right.
diseased animals before they get into the food supply.
Okay.
So they sent me down southern Georgia, little town called Moultrie.
Mhm.
No, correction. They sent me down to Live Oak, Florida first. Live Oak is on the I-10 corridor. The I-10 corridor runs over to Florida A&M and Florida State, and
Mhm.
it is true redneck country. Trust me.
Mhm.
Barack Obama was running for president, and they were walking around with turbans and talking about Osama uh,
Mhm.
bin Laden, and so uh, I was transferred out of Florida and went into southern Georgia, Moultrie, which
Mhm.
I was able to join the chapter in Albany, Georgia. Now you
Mhm.
talk about some characters. When we had the 100th anniversary, we got an
We
abundance.
probably can't tell. We
Wait,
there's some there's some
wait a second. We brought a bus up from
you told her
Georgia, and we partied the whole way up, and we
everybody would
partied
hear
the
this story.
whole way back down. Oh, now that is an experience that I will never ever forget. The bus trip from Georgia to the 100th anniversary.
All right.
Oh my God.
Okay. Look, I'm gonna
Those that
save you.
know me personally know about the trip.
You
So
took.
since this is being recorded for prosperity, we will leave it alone. But it was a trip, figuratively and literally.
Discretion is everything. Discretion is key. I'm gonna ask the next questions before you get yourself in trouble, because we laughed about that trip. So, look,
They
now,
don't want
now
the
I don't know.
valley
Hey,
shadow of death.
hey, doctor. Hey, brother Kid. I don't know, knowing your sense of humor, if this next question is. I don't know how this next question is going to go, but it says, "What have you gained from your experience in the fraternity?" I
But
don't
would you
know.
repeat that again?
What have you gained from your experience in the fraternity?
Oh God. Love of mankind,
Yep, I believe that.
sincere brotherhood,
Hmm.
faith in God.
Yep, love of mankind, sincere brotherhood, and faith in God. Man, I can totally relate to that. Even though I've only been in for the time I've been in, it hasn't taken long for me to have some of those echo those sentiments. But let me just jump in because I know we where we are. So with those three, let's ask what would you say you've brought to the fraternity, And I wish I can answer that question of what you have brought to me, but I'm gonna ask you, what do you think you have brought to the fraternity?
A sense of fidelity. Um,
Hmm.
I brought a lot of love,
Yeah.
and I brought a lot of humor.
Yes, you have. And that's much needed. And I'm gonna say something. I know this is your interview, but I served as the boss list for 2 terms, and you came to this chapter here in Dover, Delaware, Psi Iota. But the one thing you did that was impressive, um, even though I'm a 2012 brother, you still recognize and respected the seat. And if we didn't see you, if you couldn't make something because of your schedule or just because your whatever other reasons, you would
Oh yeah,
call to
oh
let
yeah,
us know. You would still send something to support an event. Where do I buy the ticket and who do I send it to? What
yeah,
mailbox? Who do I do it? So those are the things that even as a young brother and a brother in leadership leading, which even though Delaware's a Psi Iota would kind of, yeah, we're small. I call us a small chapter with a big personality,
yeah.
right?
I like
it,
that.
it would so I would say you still did that, and I really appreciate that and appreciate it. I appreciate it now, even though I'm out to sea, but I still appreciated that learning that no matter what, that those were some of the things you brought to me and to the chapter as a whole. So, which would lead me to my next question: how involved are you with in a fraternity, and why do you do it? Now, I kind of said some of those things. I think I answered a little bit for you. So, why do you do
Well,
that?
number one, I'm financial
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Hmm.
I kind of kick myself in the butt because I have not gotten um, my life membership, which I will probably do this year. Uh,
Hmm.
and I I still owe you all some money. You all had a crab feast. I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it, but I should have gone ahead and sent you a check, but I got involved. One of the problems that I have is that I am at work at 4:30 in the morning, between 4:30 and
Hmm.
4:45 every morning. And trying to make frat meetings on Saturday morning at 0900
Right.
is difficult.
Hmm.
Like I said, I am 78 and I still go to work every day.
Hmm.
Uh, People asked me the other day, Doc, when do you go retire? I said, retire and do what? Die?
Right.
You know? Uh, and with this COVID, I've got to get out and do something, walk somewhere, so I've forgotten the question now.
No, no, no. You're on it. You says how involved are you with the fraternity and why do you do it?
Yeah.
We kind of talked about how involved are you, but why do you do it? You shared your financial and then your work schedule kind of prevents you, but you still remain active. So why do you do? I guess more so as you continue to elaborate on why do you
Well,
do it?
because I love Omega. Straight up, I love me some Omega to
Yeah,
the day I die.
you sigh,
And
and
then
you always get
we
your calls.
say our last goodbye. We'll always love Omega Psi Phi.
You sigh. You sigh. Yeah, man, I'm having fun. So, this I don't know if this one gonna, we're you and I have this. We kind of emotional. I'm thinking about things now. I'm probably fighting back tears from memories, and I can only imagine how deep your memories can go. So, with this question, you spoke about your line brothers, etc., and your relationship with Founder Love. Uh, has the relationships fostered in Omega Psi Phi lived up to your definition of fraternity? Yes
Oh,
or no? And in what ways?
hell yes. Not even gonna say yes. I'm saying hell yes.
Yeah.
One of the funny things, I used to see Kappas getting fights. I I don't know. It just I've never seen Omegas get into a fight. We may disagree, but the love of brotherhood and Omega is such that it is truly overwhelming. When
Wow.
I look back at what Love Coleman Cooper just did and the organization that they founded, I am just so proud of them and to have been able to uh, share the aura. Remember now, he was a bishop,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a kindly man. So my love of Omega is just so overwhelming. Matter of fact, you might notice this on my chest. This was made in Saudi Arabia. It's got diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
20 diamonds around it. And I wear it 24/7. Thing that I'm trying to settle in my mind about it. Do I take it to the grave with me, or do I give it to some younger brother with the idea that he passes it on to another younger brother?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still trying to settle with that. Although I know I'm going to be here for another 20, 30 years.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Let's not. Hey, we're not even thinking that far ahead. That's a long, long time.
You got that right.
So we not gonna do that. This is a joyous interview for me. So I guess now, what I what would you say some of your strongest lessons? There, Omega has given me so many lessons in these. I can't believe it, and I know this is gonna sound funny to you, but 8 years going on 9 years, and they go by like that, right? They go by like that, especially when you're active and involved. So I have so many life lessons already that has transformed me, um, because of Omega. So I'm going to ask you that. What lessons, what life lessons have Omega given you?
Main one is perseverance.
Mm,
You know,
I can see that.
perseverance.
I can see
Um,
that.
there is a sign in my office. I'm looking for something here. There's a sign in my office that says "Never give up."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it if you excuse me just a second here, I'm trying to. Oh yeah, not you can see that or not.
I can see it. Yep.
You
We can
can
see
see
it. I
it.
can see it. Yeah, it's like a seagull or
It's a
something with
stork with
something.
a
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
frog in his mouth, and the frog's got his hands around the stork's neck. He said, "You ain't swallowing me. You never give up." I said,
Never give up.
I, I will send that to you. I printed it out and have it in my office.
Yeah,
So
please do. Please send it to me
yeah,
via text,
yeah.
and
Um,
we'll get that.
so I would say the main thing that I have learned from Omega, or that Omega has given me, has been perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is amazed that I still get up every morning at 3:15 in the morning. I still get up and go to work. Um, I guess mainly because God gave me a brain and a profession, and I don't have to break my back I can use what God gave me.
Right.
And that's what
Awesome.
the younger brothers have got to understand. Use your
Mm,
brain, not your back. Reach out anybody you can.
mm-hmm.
It's nothing for me to see somebody in the store trying to buy the cheapest things or whatever have you. I've been known to just go ahead and pay their bill. You
Yeah,
know, um, don't ever forget from whence you came.
I know that's
You
right.
know, uh,
I know that's right. So along with that, you kind of touched on it earlier, a little, at least in kind of a joking manner, but I, given the time that you came in and the activity of the Divine Nine and obviously fraternities, um, I guess what was and then you said you have family members who belong to another fraternity. Uh, what made you pledge Omega?
a fraternity is where your friends are in the school. I was from Baltimore,
Mhm.
but I particularly unlike a lot of the guys in Baltimore.
Okay.
Baltimore was a capital town, and they were just too pretty. Uh, the guys I hooked up with, and the funny thing about it was my family house was a block and a half away from campus, and I lived on campus. I told my father to take his money, I was going to do it my way. So I waited table, tended bar, and the guys that I met on campus, most of them, like I said, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, um, were cute. And that was the way I decided to go. Plus, hop, hop, anyway, um, and it's interesting that you brought up the Divine Nine. I'm gonna go on an aside.
Mm-hmm. It's your interview. That's
At
your
Morgan,
time.
there was a group called I Felt the Thigh, which became Iota Phi Theta. And I never would have expected them to have gotten to the size that they have attained. And it was because of Omega that they did.
Really?
They were applying being the pan help,
Mm-hmm.
and the vote was tied 4-4. I mean, no, vote was what was anyway. Make a long story short, Pi chapter gave the deciding vote to accept Iota Phi Theta into Pan Health. Now we're talking 1964, 65. I left Morgan in
Yeah.
yeah, I left Morgan in 64. Um, but that was really interesting time. Groove I Groove also got started at Morgan at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
you had Iota Phi Theta and Groove I Groove. Uh, no got an average. That was an aside. But Omega Men had the foresight to uh, reach down and bring another group into the Divine Eight, which became the Divine Nine. Yeah.
Wow. So you talk about how this stretches even across our fraternity. When we use friendship, and I don't mean that in a air quotes way, but we stand on friendship. Friendship is essential to our soul. And so can you claim that your soul has been enriched by the
Hell, I know you.
I that's a privilege for you to.
I
I
know
we
you.
joke a lot, but Odd to me that you would even
I know
somewhat
Greg,
put me in the.
I know and love Greg Bulkley.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I know
yeah,
Roger Charlie Moore.
yeah,
So, I have met a lot of good brothers here in Delaware. So friendship is essential
yeah.
to my soul.
Awesome. So if it was in your power to accomplish it, what one thing would you do to improve the state of Omega, in the eyes of the brethren in the world, for generations to come? What would you? What's the one thing you would do?
I would put some class back into the brotherhood. I look at Facebook and I see some things that, it's the this generation, they probably said the same thing about my generation. But
Mm-hmm,
this generation, they don't have the respect for each other and the respect for women.
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go into
Yeah,
the, but uh, the one thing that I would like to see the brothers do is become gentlemen again. Don't be
yeah,
talking about women like they talk about them. Uh, it hurts me actually when I see things that Q's put on. Uh, you know, this booty of be gentlemen again.
yeah. I
You
get that.
know,
Listen,
yeah.
I trust me, I get that, and so you mentioned it. Then here's another question. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I find it amazing. But you kind of already answered this question, um, regarding Line Brothers. I recently was speaking to some individuals, and I shared with them this point. When you're online, again, suffice it to say, individuals will look at this and say, Andre, you're 2012, bro. But I've learned this from watching those before me, my pro fights, to say. But when you're online, this is what I tell the few lines that I have the distinct pleasure of seeing. You're standing next to, around, in the company of individuals who probably would be your best man at your wedding, individuals who would one day carry you to Omega chapter. Well, your remains, but individuals who would carry you, your kids' godfathers or uncles, and all those, and that's what my line brothers mean to me. So we have our little text in our chat in our group, and we text each other or whatever, and we check on each other. And how would you classify your relationship with your line brothers today? You kind of answered that, but this gives you a little bit more time to go in depth in that.
True love. I'm Uncle Kid,
Yeah.
godfather to three. You know, to all the sons and daughters of my nine brothers, I'm Uncle Kit.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
as I said earlier, I talk to my nine brothers once a week, pretty much, maybe a couple of times a week,
Yep.
and then we'll get on the phone and spend a half an hour talking.
Right.
And the greatest thing is when we see each other, it's like we were never apart. We
Yeah.
pick up
Yep.
right where we left off.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't,
You,
you know, one of the things that comes to my mind is Boone's Farm apple wine. What can I? Uh, Matter of fact, at homecoming, what we will generally do is we will get a ceremonial bottle of Boone's Farm and we'll pass it
Lord
around.
have mercy. Oh goodness.
You know,
Good.
we at Morgan, we used to have this wine called Purple Cow, and we go across campus, moo, you know, So I mean, it's yeah, like I said, I'm Uncle Kit. What can I say, Uncle Fred?
Yeah. It's funny because I try to tell individuals and like, yo, you don't understand the influence of your line brothers until later. Because one thing about me, I talk a lot. I used to talk even more, but Omega has done some things for me to, be a little more humble and not but just, show a little humility, restraint in some areas and just allow others. But my line brothers are pretty much the only men. There are a few others who can say, shut up. And I'll be like, yes, you got it, bro. Because I was the youngest one offline, right? Even when I was the bossless, they'd be like, yo, they'd do something or look at me in a certain way. And I
Yeah,
knew what it
yeah.
meant. And they still had that influence over me. So, that's the power of lines. But they will come in a heartbeat. My tire was flat on my bike and I couldn't fix it. And one of my line brothers came over here like the big brother he is and changed my tire on my bike for me and showed me how to do it the right way. That's the power
Oh
of
yeah.
line brothers. So I don't like talking about them because it makes me, it just makes me, it makes me want to call them and go, be in their presence even now. So let's just move on because line brothers get you. They're the only ones who I know get men emotional. Talking about your line brothers. So so how did and how do you view Omega's importance and position in your life after all these years? What's
Repeat that again, please.
okay? How do you view Omega's importance and position in your life after all these years?
I still got Omega tags on my car. Uh, as old as I am, I'm still wearing my purple and gold.
Uh-huh.
Omega is very important in my life, and
Yeah.
I'll never deny it. I ain't gonna let the rooster crow 3 times and deny that I know Omega.
Right, 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 right.
So I mean, and my wife is a Delta, and so she is very active in Sussex County. So you got Qs and Deltas.
They call that the
Hey boy,
Coleman love
you know.
experience, right? So so what so would you want another male member of your family to pledge Omega now?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a son. He went to Morgan, and then went on in the army, and I've got 3 grandkids by him. But he was of the opinion ain't nobody gonna whip on me. And back in those days at Morgan, they were throwing the wood. They were throwing that wood. Um, so I would love for him to, and I've kind of hinted around a couple of times, by coming into the grad chapter, etc. But I'm hoping one day he'll come up to me and say, "Dad,
He's ready.
yeah, I'm ready." So
Yeah,
I could,
that would be awesome.
yeah, you run.
Well,
Go ahead.
so since Omega encouraged a communicative relationship with the Supreme Bossilist, how has Omega impacted your relationship or your spiritual life?
Well, I am a bit agnostic.
Mhm.
Down south, I kind of got turned off on religion because everybody's, I'm bishop this, I'm brother so, I'm sister here, I'm hella
Mhm.
this, it just, uh, but I talk to God 2 3 times a day myself.
Mhm.
Uh, I ask God for health, strength,
Mhm.
and direction.
So what I hear you saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as a person of faith myself, and I've been down kind of where you've been, and whatever titles people want to ascribe to others. It's not so much agnostic; it's more so people and how they carry religion. Because based on what I hear you saying, you still have a relationship with God.
Oh my God, yeah.
Just but just probably don't go through the religious portions of it. And I can echo that. So let me ask you this then. Outside of your experiences with the religion of life and religion and people and their title, how has Omega enhanced your personal relationship? Not the church, not the titles and TVs and all that. When Frederick Adams, not Dr. Frederick, when Frederick Adams talked to the supreme bossless God himself, does Omega play a part in that, or has that something that's always been a part of your life, or has it enhanced it at all?
Well, I have to look back on one of the most godly men I ever knew, Edgar A. Love.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I don't know. I mean, it's like I was born Presbyterian. I consider myself to this day a Presbyterian.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for a good African American Presbyterian church here in Delaware within 50 miles, but I haven't been able to find one.
Right. Maybe we
Uh,
maybe we need to help you find one down there. But go ahead.
um, there's one right around the corner. There's Presbyterian church there, but it's mainly Anglo-Saxon.
Okay.
Um, and let's face it, the most prejudiced time in America is between 11 and
Sunday
12
mornings.
on Sunday morning.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know what else to say about it.
I know. I got that. So listen. All right. So and again, some of these it seems like you've touched on, and but again, it gets found. And you talked about your line brothers. You talked about your relationship with Bishop Love,
This is ginger ale, by the way.
and
Because
look,
talking
have
to
you
you
developed
made my mouth dry, so I had to.
have you developed one or more continuous relationships with any members of the fraternity? You said that about your line brothers. So outside of your line brothers, who let's for a quick second put them aside. Is there any other brothers that you would say that you have a continuous relationship with
Oh
on an
yeah,
ongoing
oh
basis?
yeah. John Love, for one, Bishop Love's son. I was so
Yeah.
glad to see that we brought him
Yep.
into the fraternity. John had an accident and he was thrown off the running board of a car and he hit his head, and it slowed his uh, development a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he never went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And John and I are very close. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's another brother, a fellow named Osborne Dixon. I think I've had it, Ozzy up here with his handlebar mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's Andre Bogarty. And and
Right.
then we cannot forget Greg Bunkley.
Great Bunkley. You could very close to Dr. Jones, Doc Jones down there.
Yeah,
Uh, it's just to be named, and I say that sincerely, to be named in that lineage, or those or that line
yeah.
is amazing.
And then
So 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 I have an important question for you, and this is kind of the last question, but I get this question all the time because the Divine Nine kind of remains active after most for the most part after undergraduate school when other fraternities associations organizations seem to disappear, or they don't have that activity after they graduate college. So my question to you: are social fraternities relevant beyond
Oh,
college in today's
indubitably,
society?
and especially in the African American community.
Mm-hmm.
Remember back in the day, we couldn't go this place or that place. Graduate
Mm-hmm.
chapters evolved because of Jim Crow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we love being together.
Yeah.
We love being around each other. We
Right.
love to party.
Yeah.
And we are social beings.
Yeah.
So I I definitely believe that we have a obligation to
Mm-hmm.
continue the love of Omega through the grad chapters.
Yeah.
Um, I belong to another organization, but I see them once a month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really talk to them like I talk to you guys.
Wow.
You know, I
Wow.
mean,
Wow.
it,
Well, you know what's interesting? That I got a text earlier, and and like you said, the brothers. Man, I get emotional talking about the brothers, especially during this particular season in my life. The brothers are texting and said, "Okay, where we watching the game at?" Right. So along that line, I say, and this is what I told them: "Hey, I have an interview with Brother Adams today. I'll get with y'all after the interview, after we speak to them." And the brothers are all right, and they're texting each other. So we're ready to go hang out for a little while on this rainy Sunday morning or afternoon. Watch a little football, fellowship, talk about Omega, talk about our journey, and do one of my, well, I love all the cardinal principles, but right now, just uplift one another and where we are in life. But Brother Adams, I will give you the last word on this interview. Is there anything you would like to impart to the brotherhood who will witness this interview, and hopefully this will be archived for years to come?
um, don't forget where you came from. Treat women with respect. Treat yourself with respect. Be proud of your mother and your father. Maybe you were just raised by your mother, not a father. Be thankful that she put forth all of the effort to raise your little brown butt. um, Honor thy mother and thy father that their days may be long.
Yeah.
And with that, choose.
Q Psi. I love you, man. I mean that. I mean that with all my heart. I love you. God bless you. Q Psi to
Yeah.
the day we
And I
die.
just, I'm sorry I'm 20 miles away from everybody. My problem is I get up there with you guys and have a couple of beers, then I gotta drive a half an hour back home. And
well, well, we're putting something in place now, but and hear this with the heart and the spirit that is given. We recognize the demographic and some of the chapter leadership recognize the demographic of our chapter, and we have some senior brothers in the chapter. And the worst thing we could do now, and while we all believe we're going to be healed, and we're in the time of COVID, you know, and the last thing we need to do is get around senior brothers, or any brother for that matter, and compromise their immune system. And while we'll wear masks and do all the proper protocols that the CDC says, and obviously you being a doctor knows, uh, even on the ISQ, the ISQ calls, we just have to be mindful, and it is in our hearts to find a way to get back into some level of face to face. But we also I'd rather run the risk of missing you on this side than saying, you know what, we could have made a better decision and somebody's get sick or anything. Because we have school teachers, we have people who work around, populations.
Yeah.
And hell, in your area, they just closed the school for 2 weeks. They just closed one of the high school for 2 weeks for a positive test. So we just have to be mindful. And but out of sight in Omega doesn't mean out of mind. That doesn't mean out of mind. So we love you. We talk about you all the time. And this has been one of my this has been one of my greatest experience in my life in Omega, and I mean that sincerely. To interview you, I can think of a few others, but this is going to rank right up there. So I love you, man, and I thank you for the opportunity. Get you some rest. Be smart. Kiss your beautiful wife for me. Tell her we love her, and if there's anything you ever need, we here.
All right, to the day we die.
God bless. To the day we die.
Thank you.
Thank you.